The internet is no longer a nice to have thing that we have. It is vital to the growth of our economy. I see communities around me flourishing, and I see communities that are barely surviving. And if you look at the maps of when you look at the broadband maps and you look at Baltimore, and I encourage you to do that, you can, where you see broadband stop, it's where a low-income community starts.
Be the ones to solve the internet connectivity problem. The district shouldn't be doing that, but we are in this case, and we're buying hotspots and redirecting funds and slowing other projects down so we can pay for these things. And we're ultimately having to hand out hotspots because it's easy, and it solves a problem. We can hand it out. There's no strings attached. All we're doing is saying, "Do you say you need it? Okay, that's enough for us."
Within K12, what I saw from the last year was that hearts and minds really have shifted in the direction that broadband is an essential resource, just like kind of our minds changed over time about nutrition and transportation. But as we've all said, schools cannot bear this burden on their own, and we collectively need to support them along with other public and private partners to make sure that they have access to better data. I think that's like foundational, right? You got to understand the problem first and have the funding to pay for it, and sustainable and long-term funding at that, as Angela and Mark just noted. And I think lastly, support with family adoption to actually get those families online, because there are all kinds of enrollment barriers to actually get families signed up for these services.
We are seeing a lot more coalitions forming around this issue. Prior to the pandemic, is under 10, now we're over 30 that we know of, and there's probably some more that we don't know of that are place-based, so county, city, metro, sometimes multi-county kind of regions working together, and folks coming together, the library, the schools, the city, community-based organizations, foundations, planning entities, corporate organizations coming in to figure out what the plan is and how they can work on that together. And I think the more of that can happen in more places, the better, because we are seeing more progress in those places, because they then have time to figure out, okay, what do we have, what do we not have, how can we fill in the gaps on that. Prior to the pandemic, folks in Cleveland had already been talking to each other, and the foundation was getting involved. And what the foundation saw was that there's no place for folks to get a low-cost computer and then have tech support for it. So Cleveland brought in PCs for People, an organization that does refurbishing of computers and provides tech support. And I live in Columbus, Ohio. And so you wanna know what folks in Columbus did? We were driving back and forth to Cleveland because Cleveland had a refurbisher and Columbus didn't. So it's that being able to see what your gaps are and then fill those gaps. Cleveland just had the benefit of a foundation who saw the gap and filled it prior to the pandemic. And most places didn't have that benefit.
I've been working in this space for a long time, almost 15 years. And I gotta say, the pandemic, for all the bad things that are brought, the silver lining is we have a new focus on digital inclusion, and I think that's great. In terms of the access piece of it, more people are connected now than ever before, and I think there's new technologies like satellite and 5G and other things that are going to be available. They're going to create new divides that we're going to have to address. They're also going to get more people connected. But the piece that really matters isn't getting access. It's about making sure people have devices, making sure people have the digital skills that are necessary when they get in trouble, knowing where they can go. And that requires a lot of local support.